What a pile of shit, Evan.
Evan, this is a pile of shit.
This is a pile of
No,
shit.
I think it could be nice.
No. That's a pile of shit.
Shit, man.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So, yes, we did find a pile of shit. But that was a real pile of shit. The other pile of shit in reference is the two properties that we took a look at. That are some of the weirdest properties I've ever seen in my life. And it's not like it's on the most disgusting end or the most deterrent of all of it, but it's just weird. It literally was like what Evan described as a whimsical adventure through these two properties on this one parcel of land, and to try and rationalize and work through, is this a project we could like rebuild and bring back to life and make it as a sellable type of structure and home. And then again, there's two structures on this property. We still don't know, but you're going to see all the quirkiness with it, all the disgusting stuff with it, and trying to figure out the story behind what the hell is going on with this thing was probably the most fun part about it. It is very strange. There's a lot of very quirky, odd DIY stuff that was happening with this property. It's got a weird kind of history behind it. It certainly was fun to walk through it. I don't know what the hell we're going to do. But you guys are going to see what we got to see firsthand. You get to see us assess this property and try and figure out, is this going to work or not, without actually talking ourselves into it or out of it. But without further ado, one more thing. Pay mind to the fact, I'm not sure what was going on with my camera, but the sound is a little off during some of the video. The actual video quality itself was off. I'm not sure what's going on with my camera, but I don't know. Just bear with it a little bit, I guess, as we go through. Some of it's better than other stuff. I don't know what happened. Again, I gotta go back and take a look at what's going on with the camera, but apologize for some of the audio and some of the video. It is, for the most part, pretty good, but, you know, I don't know what happened. Technology's technology. All right, let's get into it. Okay, we're out here evaluating a property up in the almost mountains of Boulder County. And we're looking at a property that has two structures on it. One structure appears, per the pictures on the listing, that it has a lot of work has been done. Basically, they've gutted it, looks like they started reframing some things. Work has been done. The other structure, which is the one they did the 360 tour on, which I'm a little baffled by why you'd pick that one to do this.
That one.
When I went to the 360 tour, it's almost like I could smell what was going on inside the property at that point. And I don't know which one's supposedly the primary and which one's the secondary property. But it's so intriguing because of the location.
There are
and the price.
$1 million+ homes up here. This is listed for $319,000. They also in the listing have it as almost 5,000 square feet, but it's clearly between two properties.
I think it's between both properties. Looking at this, there's no way either one of these on their own is 5,000 square feet.
That one looks like it's about 3, and this one looks like it's about 2.
Yeah.
And the 2001, which is more architecturally interesting, they've done some work on the inside. They've got some new drywall up. They've done this, but it's so I think. And it's bank owned, right? We think they took it back. Another investor potentially bought it, and then
I'm trying to remember the history now because we looked at a couple that same day. I think it is bank owned. I'll recap that later.
Yeah, but so we came up here to see what the F is going on.
Basically,
all we know is there's 5,000 square feet of purchasable property in an area where that would deem $1 million comps. And so, but it's been sitting here. So we figure, okay, well, good advice to anybody.
A long time.
Yeah, a good advice to anyone looking at property online. This is exactly why you got to go walk it. You got to you got to ask these questions. Why is it still sitting there? What is going on with it? Because if it really was, you know, buy it for 3, put $200,000 in, put $300,000
right.
into it, you're at $600,000 and it's worth $1.3 million. There are plenty of investors and people doing this type of work that will buy it. So
yes.
What is it?
Why is it still here?
Doesn't mean
there's a reason.
It doesn't mean that it's not a good deal. It just means that you have to figure out the puzzle, and if the puzzle can be solved, then to the victor goes the spoils, kind of thing.
Right.
and this might require an immense amount of creativity. For example,
It will, not might.
can you join the two properties?
Right.
You know, can we take two and make one? It's not that much space in between the two. You know, I told Shane when we were talking about this, you know, how dope would it be if you actually did this glass breezeway connecting the properties? Or maybe you don't do that. Maybe you say we're going to renovate both of them, and if this can be parceled out, we sell one for $800,000 and keep the other one for Airbnb or something, because this is a great Airbnb territory. So we can make a little bit of money on one, and that will cover the cost on the other one. And we hold the other one and sell the other one, right?
Yep.
But if you're just coming up here saying, well, I can buy for X, put Y into it, and sell it for Z, that might not be that simple. But it doesn't mean that it might not potentially be
Well,
a
I mean,
good
it's not out of
investment,
the realm of
but gotta figure
possibility.
out what's going on. And I'm not 100% sure what the fuck is going on here. Oh my
Be
God.
prepared.
Watch the deck.
What's wrong with the deck?
That's so funny. This is the one that put new drywall in, or something, or vapor barrier, or something.
What? You know, the things people waste their time with.
I mean, seriously. I think the bank did this. I mean, they put new subfloor.
Maybe because it
in.
was. And this is house wrap. You don't put house wrap on the inside. That's funny.
Okay. I mean, look at that thing. Good. Okay, so new drywall. But you know, this isn't a hard gut in terms of interior space. I think the issue here is the actual structure. How much actual work do you need to do to get this to where?
And that's rough sawn timber, man.
Still space there, though. Up here.
All right. First things first, I do apologize once again for some of the audio technical difficulties. I know it's not normal for these videos that I'm putting out. I'm not sure what was going on with the mic. It was kind of in and out, and my camera wasn't always adjusting very well to the lighting. Now, the lighting wasn't great on in this property. You can see in this is the first building we walked into. This is more of like the secondary structure. But as Evan and I kind of walk through this place, we're starting to kind of realize what's really going on here. And of the two properties, as you're going to see, this property actually appeared to have some work done. Random house wrap, which was, if you can see behind Evan there, the Everbuilt, which is actually a water-resistant barrier that goes on the outside of your OSB or your plywood, your sheathing for your exterior walls. That protects moisture from being able to get through your actual sheathing into the house. I don't know why it's on the inside of the home. It appears as we walked through this that there was almost like a DIY learning shop going on in here somewhere. Some of the windows were cased in strips of OSB. There was drywall up, like I said, in certain areas, but it was very random why, and it didn't make any sense. Almost like people were in there practicing a little bit of carpentry and home building. But that being said, this project is not bank owned. As I determined once I got back, I pulled it up and I realized this was a different property I was thinking about. This property is owned by a private trust, and it's on one lot with two structures. So we have to try and figure out what exactly is going on with the property and the owner and why they're at the point they're at.
Here's what we should do.
Research before you come up here.
Here's what we should do. Make a deal with the bank and say, you're going to sell the two properties and the lot that you own next door. Now we're going to renovate this one, renovate that one, and
Build on
it
that.
right there.
I feel like that's a good idea.
All projects
It's all sitting right
just in a
here.
fucking
I can
row
just walk back and
in a
forth.
very desirable Netherlands,
Yeah.
Colorado.
Okay, great idea by Evan. However, once again, this isn't bank owned. It's with a private owner, and that's going to be a little bit more tricky. But as you're walking properties, just keep that in mind. There's lots of different ways you can actually put something together. And in the case of this, the owner actually has the adjacent lot. It's a vacant lot with no improvements on it, no structure. it's also listed for sale. And so what Evan's talking about is there's this property, which has two structures, the adjacent vacant lot, which is for sale with the same owner. And there's also another lot we were going to look at in this area, different owner, but we could actually do another project we're looking to put together with our container build. And what we're trying to do is put all of the projects in one place at this point, so we can basically just run around in the same area. We have 3 or 4 projects going, but they're all located very, very close to each other. And that's just something feasibility-wise as an investor and a builder that would be ideal if it would work. However, I'm not sure based on what I found out with owner information that's going to work. It appears to be a point load right here, which has really
Done correctly?
no, I don't even know what's going on with this thing.
It doesn't feel, it feels like a lot of, it's not even all sitting, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so the splice of this ridge beam is not quite center, but the ridge beam's pulling apart too. I'm gonna say we're gonna have to probably replace that.
Point load,
This
right?
point load here, so we'll have to go down and see how everything's sitting below. There's some structural work here.
It's hanging off.
Okay, things to keep in mind when you're walking a property such as this, is this distress or needs this type of work. Don't walk into it with eyes wide open thinking, oh my God, this is overwhelming. We've got this problem, we've got that problem, and you start negative Nancy the entire project. What you need to do is walk it with an open mind of anything can be repaired, anything can be fixed, anything can be rebuilt. It's just a matter of cost. And you don't have to be a structural engineer or a licensed general contractor, architect. You don't have to be in the field itself or in the industry to walk a property like this just as an investor and understand there's a cost here. I need to get with professionals and experts on determining what that cost is going to be. And then it's just a number at the end. What do you buy it for? How much money goes into it based on those professional opinions? And what can I sell it for? Again, going right back to developing a strong CMA report that you can build upon and work backwards through to determine, is this project feasible? Facing almost north here,
Yeah.
right? So it's gonna be a little more shaded.
Okay, so then this was where they put the kitchen in, so you gotta open this up, and you gotta have a bigger kitchen, big island, dining room area.
What's in the fridge?
Oh, God. Squirrel jumped out.
Surprisingly empty.
You don't need
I don't
to
even
do-
know what's going on here.
I don't know what's happening.
Bedroom. It's a
But maybe
5x6
this
bedroom.
becomes the master, and you take that and you turn that into the
Yeah,
main
you could.
bedroom.
Yeah,
So
that whole
if
thing
you
could get
wanted-
framed in back here.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Whoops.
People.
We got some mitigation work to do. So I can tell you right now, there is fire mitigation work that has to happen. Some of these trees are way too close. That could be a concern.
This is also a concern just with erosion for the future.
Yeah,
Look how close you are up
that's
against
a
this.
that's a problem.
That's one rock coming loose here. And
Or soil.
Or soil.
Yeah, they're going to. So this has got to come out. A lot of these trees got to fell, and then we have to have a retaining wall here.
Yeah, you gotta put a retaining wall because you gotta get rid of the trees, but the trees are serving a little bit of a purpose with all the roots and everything helping hold the soil.
Well, that's what that'll happen.
So kids at home, if you're going to do for fire mitigation on a slope property, you remove the trees. Please remember, you do need to remove the trees, but you also have to understand you're removing the thing that's helping keep the soil in place.
Yep.
So you gotta do something about that.
I feel like someone was learning how to
That's what it feels like, right?
work on a home.
Yeah.
We've got some really fat looking, this is kind of the new age OSB window casing.
You know, that OSB is so pretty. I think I want to trim.
I think I'm going to trim my window with that because that's a good idea. It looks so, no one's ever done this before.
Right. That's not always a good thing. Sometimes it is. If you're, oh yeah, look, and they're just going to paint.
And we'll just paint the OSB down here. All right. One of these doors get us in here. This is the lower level of the first building.
Process of elimination. What are you thinking?
The small guy,
Small.
master lock.
Boom.
Boom. Smart. You're so smart.
Go to college, kids.
This is about all I learned.
If we don't come back from this Somebody please find this
Yeah,
video.
you go first.
Oh, this is just a shed. Oh, wait, no.
Wait, this is only, let's make sure there's no poop down here. You can walk through this. Oh, yeah, here's your structure. There's your point load on the dirt. Nope. Oh, I saw this picture. I remember this picture. Please only step in human feces.
Okay, alright. So,
What the? Oh, there's one footing.
one.
It's a little crooked, but at least it's holding that up. I don't know how deep that footing is.
Do you know what this is, man?
A scrape.
Okay, obviously I was slightly joking there, but at some level you have to determine on a project you're trying to renovate, is the cost of renovation going to supersede or exceed the cost of literally raising a structure and building a brand new structure in its place? So as we walk through, the first property, this is the lower level, quote unquote. Basically, this was an old barn cellar at some point when the structure was originally built. They've come in, they've done some structural work. You can see the CMU wall with a newer footing behind Evan. Work has been done to kind of, shall we say, stabilize the structure as is. But we're walking through now to determine what can this lower level be used for. There's no access from above, and it's really not worth creating that access to build some sort of walkout basement scenario, because the cost of doing so, one, is too high for where we're trying to get on this property in this project. But two, it's also not necessary, because if this property, as we're walking it through it, is determined to be more of the rental or Airbnb scenario on the lot, then this can be turned into stable, pottery, so forth. And this can be the livable structure for the owner if that scenario played out. So this can be used for all kinds of things, but not living space. We could do flat work down here and have concrete floors. We could fix some of the structural issues that are going on, like I pointed out earlier. And then we have a scenario with even some horse barn doors or some cool barn doors facing out front, where there's not much work being done in this part of the property, but it brings it back to life and it brings it into usable space that would be desirable for a future owner. And again, we're trying to figure out if that cost makes sense to the overall final after repair value of the home.
About mitigation. We were looking at this. Right? So look back down here.
Bud Light.
Imagine the amount of snow melt
Yeah, that's what I was thinking earlier.
that comes down and collects down in here.
Not only are you building a pretty substantial retaining wall across the back of this property and fire mitigation work where you're filling, but you got to have a pretty substantial drain system on the back end of that wall. Takes it out and around this house.
Besides in this whole property. I just want to find, I think up there are trolls, little trolls.
I'm sure
Cute
there are
ones.
plenty of trolls.
Yeah, that turn into rocks like in Frozen.
Little cute guys.
Yeah. But man alive.
I mean,
Look
look,
at this is
there's the sign of someone that kind of got fed up with the project.
just
When you start throwing stuff out the back, you know you're in trouble at that point.
Yeah.
This isn't gonna work. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of,
Troll's house.
well, yeah, that too. It reminds me of like once the zombie apocalypse hits. All right, so for those of you watching that don't know what this is a cistern. Okay, this is actually feeding. It's a gravity fed one, because we're, per code, you have to have this strapped to a tree with ratchet straps, right? You got some tie downs holding this bad boy up. By the way, it's empty, and then it's gravity fed down to the house. This is how you get water to the houses right now. Which, I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this is a DIY project just to get these hooked up. But in theory, that's what's doing that. You fill that thing up, it gets chemicalized, shall we say, and then the water gets clean and ends up down these two properties. All this blue pipe is water fed by gravity down to the houses. Now, if you kind of think about, we're up in the mountains, guess what happens in the mountains when it gets cold? It snows. What does water do at a certain temperature?
As a party?
It has a party. It has a physical change, Mr. Evan. And it turns into ice. And ice doesn't move very well through pipe. So that's why these systems, if they're buried in the ground to a certain frost depth, they will work. If they're sitting on top of the ground, it is not going to work.
If you find yourself talking yourself into loving it, then that means nothing's cool about it. And if you talk yourself into shooting holes in it, that means you love it. And somewhere in the middle is probably a good project.
We're going into property number 2, structure number 2.
What's the word I'm looking for, Shane? It's like mystical or
Yeah.
whimsical.
Whimsical?
Whimsical.
Oh,
Key number 1.
ooh. Push harder. Oh. Okay. All right. Door's
I
fine.
mean, look at this. I mean, there's so many cool things going on here. It's just holy shit.
Oh boy.
God.
Yeah, this looks just like the 3D tour.
An
I
animal
wanna
has
take-
been eating it.
I want to take that out. I want to make a little bench out of that.
I mean, something
Dude, that's...
has just been gnawing on this.
Look at that. We're going to find it in here somewhere at some point.
A dog? Or
Whoa, how big is that dog? Look at all of it.
all of it. Just some dog.
I don't think it's a dog.
Okay. Property number 2. This one was weird is an understatement. Evan may have nailed it with the word whimsical. Talk about quirky. I mean, the cool part about this property, honestly, is that it has so many historical features. And when I say historical features, I'm talking about types of construction and materials used, time frame, the way it actually was framed up, and just all of the nooks and crannies of each little room that was in here. I really want to dig in and figure out the history of this house, because clearly, as old as it is, many, many people over the years, or maybe just one family, I don't know, continued to change and sort of renovate this property. And what we were trying to figure out as we walk through here is this the property that someone lives in to be the Airbnb because of all these whimsical features? It is way too chopped up and messed up and structurally goofy to try and make this an actual home. And this is, again, where we got into that 50-50 of, do we try and renovate this for a number, or do we tear it down and start over? And we determined if we tear this thing down, you just can't replicate it. I mean, you can't just reproduce a home of this age with this type of construction and architecture, because it's not going to be original. So when you get into these types of properties, you have to really consider not only the cost to renovate versus tear down, rebuild, but also, is it worth it to try and recreate it, or do you really try and save what's here? And that's always a dilemma when we look at these types of properties.
I'm just saying.
I don't know.
Well, just don't. I wouldn't walk in it.
Or maybe it's a murdering room.
That could be. Either way, I don't want that in my truck. Just don't step in
I
there.
mean, look at this.
Dude.
Now, this is what I'm saying. You can't. The creativity that was used in building this house, whenever it was built, is just something that's so hard to redo. This is 101. This is my hands amount of work. I mean, look at how cool this is, though. This is a sweet Airbnb house.
Yeah.
This, because it's so strange and fun and interesting. You know, I think that if this was done now, looking at this with this gigantic, like, fireplace in here, what an amazing experience if this was all fixed up.
We're gonna find it.
But a very small one, because these turds are very small. I mean, this is so broken up and strange.
Bathroom. There's some toilet paper in there. Do I dare? Yeah, I mean, where's in the go?
Okay.
Well, that looks fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, we don't have
Actually, a lot of breakers have been replaced in here. All those square Ds. This is actually pretty new. It's not as low as I thought it was down here. Good. We're gonna start to insulate though. Let's get that in. Don't worry about the skunk.
I mean, what the fuck?
Bro, we've got.
What is this, dude? This is just, it's just, it's almost like you say, listen, we don't have a plan. The plan is you buy it. We gotta come here and just rip everything out and then let it marinate for like a week. And just sit there and just let this thing, I think if you try to come in here and force this, it will gobble you up. You know what I mean? Like, you have to really think about, what are we doing? Because there's so many cool
I don't know.
things happening here, but I don't know how you tie this all together. I mean, this would require an immense amount of, I mean, you got to get rid of the distractions.
You mean the house?
Yeah.
I think
What I
maybe.
mean is, like,
Look at this.
you're going to go through and say, all right, what is amazing about this? The little loft with the fireplace, the gigantic, very medieval looking fireplace.
Yeah.
You know, you got fireplaces downstairs, you got the bedroom with the sunken, like, keep those 5 things. Everything else you have to figure out how to make it make sense now. And I don't think you can do that unless you come in and just rip it all apart and leave those 5 things and say, how are we putting this back together now? Because those are the 5 things that are really amazing. But like down here, going down those stairs to access this amount of square footage, which is really like, you got 2 more bedrooms down here. You got this really
Got
amazing.
a start of a master suite right here.
Yeah.
Ensuite.
Yeah,
Oh,
but it's
fucking
not really a walkout because you're slightly below grade.
Yeah. I wonder if that's what they were chipping away at here.
So like you can't get in and out down here.
No, even though you should be able to.
Yeah.
Really, really odd.
This, I mean,
The original excavation and build for this house just doesn't make any sense. I mean, they're crazy.
was this meant to be like a master?
No.
What's the price
What?
of
At
this?
some point, that was in there for something. We even replaced the faucet. See? See? Yeah, this is a head scratcher.
You can figure this out. There's money here. I don't know if it's one you want to go for, but there's money here. If you can close your eyes, visions of grandeur, and think about the features that you would create, that you just can't do unless somebody did it like this 100 years ago. You know what I mean? Or however long it was ago. Because there's 60s elements here, but
There's a lot of generations of
yeah, and
elements
it's
in
just
here.
like if you can find a way to make it make sense, this is an amazing architecturally significant home, but I don't know what amount of money and amount of time it would take to get back there, dude, but if you could do it,
I don't think 3 is enough.
3 is not enough.
All right, there you go, guys. There's the tour of probably the weirdest two properties I've ever walked, ever. There's the backdrop. We're going to keep assessing this one, but make sure you guys hit that like button on the way out. If you haven't, hit the subscribe button. Appreciate you guys watching. See, I'm all flubbered right now because my brain's just spinning. I'm trying to figure things out. Catch you guys on the next one. Check out the other videos, and fingers crossed we can figure this out because it's pretty damn cool. I'm going to let Evan's brain work this one out. All right, guys, till next time, keep building. This is Blair Witch.
I want to.
We're going to get locked in here in a minute.
Something's going to grab your foot right there.
Probably. Please don't. Ah!